Ready? I'll call the Lakeland Shores City Council meeting to order, June 1st, 2017. If we could have a roll call, please, Kim?
Councilmember Kopesky.
That'd be me.
Councilmember Bishop.
Bischoff here.
Mayor Zeller.
Here.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Here.
Councilmember Wilson.
Here.
Thank you. If you guys would join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first business item is to adopt the agenda. Is there a motion to do so? I'd make the motion. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Any discussion regarding the agenda? Call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the consent agenda. There's two items on there. Approve the May 4, 2017 council meeting minutes and approve the monthly claims and financial report. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tom got it? All right. Call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Public comments. Natalie, we have you on. Let me just ask. You're the only one present. Did we have any written comments?
No.
Okay, excellent. Well, welcome Natalie from the St. Croix River Association.
Hello, you may remember me from last year coming to talk to you all about the project that the St. Croix River Association is working on to bring greater awareness to the riverway regulations that protect the lower St. Croix River. And I am here tonight to tell you about some new resources. A quick overview of the project again in case you forgot what we're working on. We are working on a 3-year project. This is the second year now. With funding from the Legislative Citizen Committee on Minnesota Resources to bring greater awareness to the riverway regulations through working with realtors, local governments, and landowners, and doing a lot of education and outreach about the significance of the regulations, but also trying to make them easily accessible to landowners and especially prospective buyers. We're in the game of managing expectations is what I like to say, because I'm sure you've realized that when people's expectations aren't managed about certain things, that's when frustrations and hardships occur through the City Council. So in front of you, you have two resources. One is the Landowner's Guide to the Lower St. Croix Riverway. And what we did here, this was about 10 months in the making, lots of edits. We worked closely with Sandy Thone when she was here. And all of the communities, the DNR, the National Park Service, the watershed districts, we've had a lot of review on this document. It is the Landowner's Guide to the Lower St. Croix Riverway. It talks a little bit about the riverway, how it's protected. You can flip through it, who to contact. And then we've illustrated all of the riverway ordinances. So setback from the ordinary high water level, setback from the bluff line. Ideally, a landowner would, this is an introduction to the riverway regulations, they would flip through this and have a general idea of what is required of them and their responsibilities living on the St. Croix River. So that's one thing that we are also, this document is now at 3 major realty offices in Stillwater, and it will be at 10 major realty offices in this area by the end of the summer. I've been doing presentations there as well. So this will reach hands of prospective buyers and landowners who come with questions about remodeling, rebuilding, or building on a property in the riverway. And then this document is just a general outreach. We're putting this at businesses, public spaces, libraries, anywhere that has a space for flyers and panel cards to catch people's eye, to let them know that there are protections in the lower St. Croix Riverway. So we're trying to reach people at the earliest point possible before they have a grand idea of painting a barn bright red right next to the river, so that they understand there are protections. A lot of this, again, is preventative for what could be bigger problems moving forward, and so we're trying to do as much education and outreach about this as possible. We met with the zoning administrators yesterday, and Kim was there. We're working on best practices for local governments to really lay out a clear and concise, orderly process for zoning applications, and that will increase transparency and hopefully consistency between the communities. Does anyone have any questions for me? I could talk for a long time.
Questions, comments? I'm looking at you, John, because it looked like you were contemplating one, but
Just dig myself a deeper hole. I think it's wonderful. I think it's a good idea to get it out. Hopefully, after your 3-year project is over, these forms or guidelines won't disappear. I mean, I know they won't disappear, but won't disappear from sight. For recent homeowners that buy on the river, I think it's important that they have a pretty clear idea as to what their limitations are, and the fact that it is possible to get a variance, but that is difficult.
Absolutely. And to touch on your hoping that resources don't disappear, all of these resources will be up on the St. Croix River Association website, and by the end of July, we'll also have an interactive Google map that shows the riverway boundary and all of the parcels, so that anyone can go and type in their address and see if they're in or out of the riverway. And we're also including an overlay of National Park Service scenic easements on those, which you wouldn't be concerned with. But trying to get that information out there and easily accessible for people to do due diligence.
Is there a way to get this like on our city website?
Yes, great question.
So people scrolling through, and then we can just say, there it is on the website.
Absolutely. I sent out a PDF version of this and a version for you to print it with bleeds, and same for this one. We are going to have a version on our website where you can click through so you can read it on the website. One thing that we've talked about at the zoning administrator meetings is creating a template for the cities. So we have funding for a web developer to go in and add these resources to your website if you're interested in that, to better tell the story of the riverway.
are the townships, have they been participating? They're taking over their own zoning here. I think that started the 1st of this year.
The townships I've been in contact with, they weren't involved creating this document, but they are receiving this document and know what we're doing. Yeah.
You put that
Okay.
back on the deer you were chasing. Just picking ticks off me.
Okay.
That's part of the riverway.
And then, then what's the next step for the next year?
The next year will be a lot of community presentations. We've talked about next March doing a presentation with people who are thinking about building and bringing all the zoning administrators and the DNR so that we can have that conversation with people before they have an idea of what projects they want to do. We're also going to create a 3-minute video that essentially has these things, but is a little bit more about, a little fluffier about the responsibilities of landowners living on the St. Croix River and why it's such a great place to live. We are also going to be putting on some training. So we just did a 3-part land use training in Stillwater. I believe, John, you went to one of those. And we'll be doing some more of that next year. We are talking about doing a realtor certification program so that realtors can start taking more and more continued education classes about these things, become certified to work with landowners and better disclose the riverway. So we've got a lot of things on the docket. I will be coming by, hopefully, sometime this fall to just update you guys on what we're working on. And always your input's really helpful. So when Sandy left, we didn't have a representative for Lakeland or Lakeland Shores for a while, and Kim showing up yesterday was really important to continue the conversation between the communities. When we just have 3 out of the 10 communities showing up, it's a little bit less effective. So I would just encourage you to continue to be part of the conversation, because that helps us be a resource to you and create things that you need.
Great.
Cool.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And these will be housed here. Kim has a whole stack. Do you want any more? Okay. Let me know if you need more. Thank you.
Thanks. We'll move on to agency reports. The deputy's not here, so Tom, would you like to do the fire department now, or would you like to do that? Combine it? Okay. Building permit report, I believe we all received that. Is there anything unique that we need to touch on there, Kim?
No.
Okay. Engineering report, John, do you want to cover that?
Sure, I did talk to Mr. Perotti a couple of days ago. He basically had 2 messages. One deals with the bike path, which is going to be started, or if it hasn't already been, I've been out of town, so I'm not sure, but during the month of June. And apparently the person that's doing our paving job. Must be the same person that's doing the bike path. That's the impression I got.
Hard drive's got it, I
And
guess.
so if they're doing the paving of the bike path in June, more than likely John Brody indicated that they would be probably doing our pavement in the month of June as well.
Great.
And other than that, there wasn't anything. He was waiting for St. Mary's Point to sign the contract, and he was, as of 2 days ago, they hadn't as of yet, but it was just a procedural thing that was going to take place. And once that was done, they were doing a pre-pavement meeting, I guess, with all the interested people that are involved in it. And so it seems to be on track, and it looks like, hopefully, I noticed there's new paint on the road, outlining kind of the broad outline of where the pavement's going to start and stop from the old to the new. And that's been put down the last 3 or 4 days. I assume Brody did it. But beyond that, there's nothing to report as far as the engineer's report goes. It was just those 2 items.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to item 5, unfinished and new business. Item A is consideration of resolution number 2017-06-01, liquor license renewal. Kim, do you mind introducing that?
I most certainly will. The Shiners establishment, their liquor license is expiring on July 15th, the same every year. They have applied for their renewal. The renewal has been sent to the Sheriff's Department for background check. And when it comes back from that, the application does go to the state for approval. Along with that, the City Council needs to approve it by resolution. And there's a resolution attached that does outline some conditions of approval based on all the approvals, or the background check comes back, the fee is paid, their insurance is in place. So at your leisure, you may adopt resolution 2017-06-01.
Council discussion?
Well, go ahead, Tom.
Okay, I think, is that the resolution that mentions that property taxes need to be currently paid? And I sent Kim and the mayor some information from Washington County, which I believe addresses that issue. And basically, Shiners, their owners, earlier this year in March, reached an agreement that with the county to pay their back taxes, including interest and any penalties, and it added a 10% interest rate over a 5-year time period. And it's called a confession of judgment. So they have an agreement in place, and they are currently current with that agreement, as well as current with the 2017 property taxes. And that's part of the agreement. They have to keep all current taxes paid up. So, plus the 5-year plan.
Yep.
So from that perspective, things are current.
That's what I was going to ask about, whether there was something, we've heard that there's been an agreement and that type of thing, and I was just curious as to whether it was a little more formal than...
It's a very formal document. Again, Kim and the mayor have a copy of it. If I have a copy here in case somebody wants to look at it.
No, that's consistent with what I was told, so I'm glad to hear that.
So then the county takes care of enforcing that? Okay.
Based on that, Mayor and council members, the resolution as outlined could be adopted.
Have we received any of our back money yet?
Yes.
We've got
They made their first payment on that agreement.
Okay.
So payment 1 of 5 has been made, and we should I was gonna include this in my report, but I might as well now. We should see some extra money coming in for those back years.
That'll come from the county, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
Yep.
Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any additional discussion? We'll call for a vote. It's a resolution. Do you mind taking roll call?
Councilmember Kopesky.
Aye.
Councilmember Bischoff.
Aye.
Mayor Zeller.
Aye.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson.
All right.
Thank you. Resolution passes. Item B, charitable gambling permit. Can I pass that to you again, Kim?
Yes, Mayor and council members, along with the liquor license renewal, an application came in from,
St. Paul
yes, St. Paul.
Festival and Heritage Foundation, the Winter Carnival.
Yes. They applied for a premises permit for charitable gambling at Shiners. The organization is licensed and is a nonprofit. The application as well as a lease agreement is provided. This also goes to the state after council approval. The organization has indicated that the prior leasees are going to leave the old organization within June 30th. Based on your fee schedule, there was not a charitable gambling permit specifically. There was a miscellaneous fee of $50 made out to the city. I would encourage, if you are approving the charitable gambling license, you do that with the acceptance or based on obtaining that fee.
Well, we have on this one, it says right here, a permit fee of $100.
That's for the state?
So we're not following with that, or?
No, that
That's
goes
the
to
state's
state.
fee.
But we don't have I thought it was $100.
50.
Okay,
I wasn't able to find a specific gambling permit fee.
okay.
I found a miscellaneous fee of $50.
Now they know that 10% of their profits have to be given back to the city. Tom can probably touch on that.
That is
The charitable
correct.
gaming.
We have an ordinance that stipulates that 10% of their net profits goes back to the city, and they're supposed to send us their full reports, and that's how all previous gambling organizations have done it, because we have that ordinance in place. I don't think we've ever charged a fee, and the reason is because we get the 10%. I don't recall ever getting a fee from the gambling organization in advance, but maybe we snuck a fee in there if it's on the schedule. But if it's, is it related, is it just a miscellaneous
It's a
thing?
miscellaneous fee.
See, I don't think we've ever charged a gambling organization a fee, so it's up to you guys.
I think we may have
If you
waived.
think they come under the miscellaneous.
I think we may have waived it in the past because it was a nonprofit charitable deal.
But I know,
Maybe.
going back to the 10% years past, some of the last ones, they show a profit, but then they say maintenance, this, that, and then they negative. So it's like we owe them money. And I think we need to be more.
No, we
firm
never
on
owe
that.
them money.
I know,
It
but they
can't be
always,
less than zero.
I know, but they always showed a negative on their thing.
A lot of the
Yeah.
times they do, and that's the only concern I have about this.
Exactly.
It's not a concern, but it's just more of an observation.
Yeah.
And I don't know what previous gambling organizations had, what kind of agreement they had with Shiners, but if you look on their app, they're paying Shiners 15%.
Yeah, they can get up to like
See,
$1,600 a month.
And I think maybe there's another 20% number too, so that gets paid first.
Yeah. And we need to make a
We get paid last. And that's sometimes why we don't get too much.
So do you want to amend or include that
No,
in the
I would
motion, Tim?
not, because I think they need to cover their expenses.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we need to, because we use it for charity for kids in the valley. That's what we use our
Yeah.
money for.
Yeah, and I think we have an ordinance that requires the charity spends so much of their money in the valley. It might even be 100%.
Yeah. Yep.
Now,
Because years ago we used that-
it's a pretty decent area though. It's not just this strip.
I know years ago when they were there, we were given $1,000 a year to Lucy Bell for 5 years.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that shows you, I mean.
And it was coming from here.
Yeah, it was. So they were making
We
money.
gave to military families, we
Yeah.
gave to a variety of charities.
That's the only thing I would make a note of, is make sure that we get compensation.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion.
Would you just restate it so that we're all clear?
That in the ordinance that has 10% of their profits go back to the city for charitable,
And what's your position on the fee?
whatever the clerk required or recommends.
So $50, so
$50.
your motion is to approve the license with a $50 fee and a 10% of profit back to the city.
Yes,
Okay? Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
thanks for that.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to restate it. Discussion?
I do.
Yep.
I
Randy?
looked at Schedule A of Tom's report that's coming up. I believe it's the Stillwater Elks that are in there right now. And the 12/31 balance of 16 is $363. The balance right now, as of April 30th, is $595.41. In 4 months, there's been $231.58 going to the city. You divide that 231 by 4, and we've gotten $57.90 each month for the last 4 months. So if indeed that's the 10%, that hopefully is, I believe, because I know I've had conversations with the gentleman at the Stillwater Elks, and when Sandy was still here, we had talked about that. So that means, if indeed everything is kosher, that they were then saying that they pulled in $579 a month, of which we get 10%. Looking at it from that standpoint, you know, I've been there quite a bit. We've all been to Shiners. You know, it's very possible that, you know, by the time you pay all the expenses and you do this and that, maybe they just net out the $579, and that's where our 10% goes. So I don't want to belabor the point, but I just wanted to put it on the record that this is what we're getting. And I do agree that we should look at, my question would be, either to Tom, and Kim probably wouldn't know, have we received any paperwork from the, I will say Stillwater Elks, well, let's just use it generically. Have we received any monthly paperwork from the current charitable gaming organization the last 4 months to corroborate this $57.90?
Yeah, we get a quarterly report from them. It's a quarterly report.
Quarterly.
I can't remember if the detail shows every month or not.
Okay.
It might. And the 231 is for the first quarter. For the fourth quarter of 2016, it was 111.
Okay,
The second or third quarter of 2016, it was 87. So, and the second quarter of 2016 was 126. So, and then their first payment, I can't remember when they started, was $33. So the whole $589.76, other than that $5.38 we had carried for a few years, came from the Elks, the Stillwater Elks.
Okay.
And so this is the biggest check we've ever gotten from them, was this last quarter. And there is paperwork. I don't have it with me, but I do.
Oh, no, that's fine, Tom.
I do keep it, unless Kim keeps it, doesn't give it to me.
All right.
But it comes with the check and all that, so.
All right. That's all I have.
Okay. Additional comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Item C, consideration of ordinance number 74, garbage and solid waste. Back to you, Kim.
They should be aware of it.
Through the ball to you, Kim.
Okay. Mayor and council members, you have before you your garbage and solid waste revised ordinance. It's my understanding that in order to obtain an RFP for the participating communities, an environmental consultant was hired to update and put together a plan for all the ordinances within the communities. I'm not aware of any more than that, but the revised ordinances did come through to the cities. The intent is to be consistent with the definitions of state law and county ordinances, provide for the collection of source organic materials, regulate the hours of hauler operations, weekly recycling service, customer service requirements are specified as well. The point again is to have all the 4 communities that are involved go out for an RFP and get a much better price for that, for those services. The ordinance already included those changes, and then per your staff report, I had some recommended changes that you can discuss. The ordinance, I did change it to refer to the 2040 comprehensive plan, so you won't have to change that again. I changed the trash hauler license to $80, as well as the current bonding, put that at $5,000. I based those figures on local surrounding communities and what their figures were at.
Because it's currently 1,000, right? Isn't that what
The city of Lakeland just changed theirs to 10,000. So it was at 5,000.
Kim, could I interrupt you?
Sure.
So if Lakeland, the idea here is that the 4 communities would all hire the same hauler. So does it make sense for us to be consistent with the other communities' requirements? Or do they have to get a bond for each individual community?
They have to get a bond for each individual. And I think maybe because the area is a bit smaller, the council may want to consider a smaller bond,
Okay.
but that's certainly up to you.
Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. Let's see, the ordinance draft refers to having a designated collection day. In your previous ordinance, it did state Monday through Friday. It was highly recommended that you have a designated day. It doesn't say what the day is because that's going to come from the joint powers agreement or the RFP that goes out, and that's going to work best days to pick up, but it's one day. And the hours are 7 a.m. to 6, I believe. The ordinance draft I did change that to state that the hauler must provide the containers. And the ordinance draft also does require haulers to participate in the annual cleanup day, which they are for the other communities. So those were the recommended changes that I did change from the ordinance that was presented by the, provided by the environmental consultant.
And this doesn't require a public hearing?
It is my understanding it does not, because it is not a land use ordinance.
Okay.
I remember we looked at this years ago and it was like almost an act of Congress to do it. It takes a while, doesn't it? To get a private hauler?
It'll go out for contract. I don't think it's going to take all that long.
No.
Garbage is big business. They'll come back in pretty quick.
It's picking
I know
up,
we
right?
used to have years ago one day, and then I won't say what name, a bigger company, they just pushed it off and just did whatever they wanted and went to a different day. So I like the idea of going to one day.
And within the contract, they wouldn't be able to do that again. It would be based on their schedule.
Right.
But I think if there's any concern about truck traffic and conditions of roads, a specified day is a
So they would
good
do
idea.
all 4 cities on that day?
No.
Or different days?
Different days.
But that day would be,
There will be a specified
We
day
would
for
have a
Lakeland
day
Shores.
for Lakeland Shores.
yeah.
And it may be the same as Lakeland, may
Right,
not be,
yeah,
but
right.
you just don't know.
So that's really not a change, because,
But we just have one hauler.
that's right.
Yeah,
Right now,
it-
Yep.
The whole purpose of this, and the one meeting I was able to attend, is the fact that these solid waste ordinances are kind of all over the map across the 4 cities, so they were trying to align them, and then the inclusion of organic materials, which nobody had in anything, which is the yard waste, basically, and the consultant included that in there. That's, how do I say this? That's another separate hauling issue, which is in here but not addressed by this contract.
Well, there is no contract right now. We're just
I
amending
understand
our
that.
ordinance so that we can
Right,
go up.
right, I understand that, but I just want to make sure everybody says is that these source separate organic materials, the SSOM, is yard waste. By that I mean grass clipping, trees, that We are not doing that, picking it up, but it is in here specified as a type of waste. That's all it's doing, it's defining it.
Okay.
So we're just doing the recycling.
So your contract could include it if you
Yeah,
came to an agreement.
So we're not, like right now, I don't know how soon this would be. Are we still in contract with like the recycling? I know we had a so many year contract because it was built in to pay for the new bins that we got. How long ago was that? I can't remember, a couple of years. If that was a 2 or 3 year contract that we had to, it was spread out over so long.
Whatever contracts are in place, we have to honor.
Right. So.
I can't answer that question, but I would assume that going out for this RFP and revising all the city's ordinances, that has been taken under consideration.
I'm sure they
And the
know
contract
that.
would be based on your current contract expiring. I know it does say here that and this was from the environmental specialist, that a provision has been made for collection of the source segregated organic materials.
And they talk about this technology or this process maturing or something to that effect, yeah. And it's in there so we don't have to address it later, I guess is the best way to say it.
Okay.
Well, I should probably know this, but do we just have one hauler in Lakeland Shores, Maroney's?
3.
3?
That's what confused me, because I think
Waste
we only
management.
already have one day a week, but that's for Maroney's. Then somebody else has got another day and somebody else has got another day. Exactly.
I think there's Waste Management, Baroni's, and
Highland.
Yeah.
So the staff recommendation is to approve the ordinance as presented or to approve the revised ordinance with additional changes if there are any.
Mayor and council members, I would recommend that the draft ordinance is approved as presented, keeping in mind that when the contract does go out for bid, there's going to be, detailed work on that, and the council does not have to enter into the agreement. But the ordinance itself, you're updating to the definitions of state law and the county ordinances.
Okay? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I will make a motion that we approve ordinance number 74, garbage and solid waste, as presented.
Second the motion.
Any additional discussion?
I do. Let me ask 2 questions. Are other communities having public hearings?
The city of Lakeland did not.
We don't know about the other 3.
2.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Did we have to post this?
All right.
Or will we have to post this or not?
So that'd be something that I would want to have further discussion with you folks, if you're okay with that. And then let me take a position, and I'd like to hear your position on this, that right now, according to what we're making a motion, approve revised ordinance as presented with current bonding license at 5,000. Well, so why are we, just because they're smaller, why can't we have it at 10,000? We got just as nice a place as everybody else does. Why shouldn't we have 10,000?
I would comment. There's a cost associated with having a bond, and ultimately that cost is going to get passed on to the consumer. So we're trying to find that sweet spot of enough to protect our interest, but not too much that it becomes costly to have it.
But now here's where I don't know. Will that cost be the same for the other 3 cities as us?
No, they'll all each enter their own contract. It'll just be the same contract. Each city will enter their own contract.
Conceivably, each city paying a different amount.
Relative to the bond, yes, their contract could differ in that regard.
Okay.
I guess, Randy, to comment to it, the bond is for damage done to city, I'm going to use a very broad term here and say infrastructure. So if we have a stoplight they back into, or take out a street sign, or you can go right down the list with whatever, dump hydraulic oil on the road and don't clean it up. From the standpoint of what it would cost, the bond, $5,000 is adequate to handle that. Now, if they back into Lakeland's, you know, they're picking up a bin here and they back into the building, $10,000 is a much
Yeah,
better.
they have,
Yeah, but wait just a second,
They have
because I believe this
liability
is a surety bond, so
Yeah.
it's a guarantee that they have protection
Yeah.
of that level, but they are also gonna have insurance
Agreed,
and other
agreed,
liabilities.
agreed.
So this is just in the event that we were to contract with somebody that didn't have the appropriate
Right.
insurance or revenues to cover that type of a thing, the bond would then come into play. So
Right.
in all likelihood, the bond will never be utilized.
I totally agree. The only thing is that on oil spills, I think it comes into play, according to my conversations with Sue Young. You know, if they are responsible for their oil spills, and if they blow a hydraulic hose, and Sue said, if they don't clean it up, it's $1,000 for somebody to come in and do it, if you have somebody come in and do it.
Right, and that claim could still be made with their insurance company though. Or,
I'm not gonna get into the ins and outs of that, I don't know.
yeah,
But,
or with them directly.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if that helps.
The only thing that I would add, and I don't know if it's pertinent at this particular point, but from what I've read in the paper from other cities like Richfield and a few others where they have attempted to go with one hauler, I assume this has something to do when you're looking maybe for a public hearing. You know, it's, for whatever reason, people really have this bond with their haulers. And as far as I can figure out. And, you know, so we don't want to do it lightly. If we're going with one hauler, expect some blowback on, you know, people being dissatisfied that they can't pick their own, okay?
well, they gotta, you know, and they gotta look at that, you know, if we have 3 haulers, there's 3 trucks. If we have one
Yeah.
truck.
No, I couldn't agree
Yeah.
more, Tim. I'm just saying that,
Oh, I know, like Oakdale, I know they have over 15, St. Paul has over 20, 22, 23. And it's just the wear and tear and the noise pollution.
You bring up a great point. Now that you've said that, I've been reading kind of the same thing like in the St. Paul paper. St. Paul's going through that. And there's a lot of people blowing a gasket over there. I don't want those people. I like my current people. Wow, yeah, that's right.
luckily we don't have. that many people.
Maplewood did the same thing. My brother lives in Maplewood.
Yeah.
He had the same point Tim did. He had 5 trucks going up and down his street every week, every
Got
day.
the noise pollution.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't have a problem with that. It's just that we're kind of taking the choice away from the people in the respect. I think it's a great idea having one hauler, but, you know, I don't know if everybody will be able to agree on, you know, the constituents. They'll, you know, not everybody has the same hauler right now. So, yeah, we'll probably get, you know, it's just marketing and public relations and letting people know why we've made this decision and why it's in the best interest of the city, and maybe, you know, bring your cookies out to your new hauler and get to know them.
So then I'll have to wait 3.5 years to get voted out instead of 2 or 1.5.
Or get impeached.
All right, I think we've got this one. We've got a motion and a second. I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by the sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Good discussion, thank you. Resolution number 2017-06-02, summary publication.
Mayor and council members, what is required after adoption of a new ordinance is publication of that ordinance. Again, the public hearing was not required because it's not specific to land use, but the city does need to publish this in the paper. I've provided a resolution for summary publication, and that has to be a 4/5 vote. And then the actual summary will go in the paper to keep costs down. If you did publish this whole ordinance, you're talking a lot of dollars. You could buy your own garbage truck.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 2017-06-02. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there discussion? Call for a vote. All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Item E is proclamation of appreciation. And I will read this for the record. City of Lakeland Shores proclamation. Whereas Chris Peterson has announced his intention to retire from the Lower St. Croix Valley Fire Department, and whereas Chris Peterson joined the Lower St. Croix Valley Fire Department as a firefighter in 1977, and whereas during the course of his 40 years of service, Chris was promoted to fire chief, and whereas Chris has guided his department through hard work and diligence, contributed to safety, well-being, and mentorship of the department, and whereas Chris has given his own personal time on many occasions to assist with projects and events in the community. And now, therefore, be it resolved in recognition of his 40 years of service to the citizens of Lakeland Shores, Afton, Lake St. Croix Beach, and Lakeland, we offer our sincerest congratulations to Fire Chief Chris Peterson and extend our heartfelt thanks and our fondest wishes for a happy, healthy, and extremely long retirement. Signed by me, first day of June 2017. So that's our opportunity to thank him for his very, very hard work and years of service. Would anybody like to comment? I think we all concur. Okay.
Absolutely.
Our last item of business here is accessory building ordinance. This was a result of a discussion that took place at Randy's request. So Randy, how about I turn this over to you?
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. What I'd like to do is to ensure that we have a guiding understanding, and as far as it being called item number 5F, accessory building ordinance, that's really not what we're doing, in my opinion. What we should be talking about is, I have the ordinance book here. We should be talking about Title 15, which is the very last title of our ordinance. There are 15 different ordinances, okay? And number 15 is called land use, okay? In land use ordinance. And then there are 6 chapters in our land use ordinance, chapters 150 through 155. This particular ordinance is 190 pages long. I have read this ordinance, all 190 pages, probably spending anywhere between 12 to 18 hours. I have it pretty much memorized, okay? So without going into my 4th master's degree thesis defense of what we're talking about here, is the reason that I talked with the mayor, and thank you, Mayor, again, for putting this on for an agenda item tonight, is I want to put up a carport. And a carport is not in, we were thinking about perhaps making a work group, but I don't think we need to do that, because if we look at the ordinance, it's very clear. A carport is not an accessory structure. So I would like, and I've talked to a whole bunch of other neighbors who have carports up, and they haven't had a building permit. They've just put it up within the setbacks. So I think with that said, that's basically the conversation I wanted to have tonight. There are some things that we probably really do need to address in here if there are going to be reasons to put up some other structures. We've got definitions of appurtenances, and I mean, look at all the yellow tabs that I've gone through, and I went through the whole thing. Bottom line of this, without going into a lot of detail, it needs some work. Do we need to do it tonight? Do we need to do it down the road? Obviously not tonight, maybe down the road if we have to. But as long as we understand that what the resident wants to, or a constituent wants to put up, and we have a good definition of it, we're in.
So there were quite a few people involved in the email exchange. Our attorney, Dave Magnuson, Kim spent some time on it. The building inspector weighed in on it, and there were some consistency to their feelings, but to your point, you're still not comfortable or clear with where a carport or a temporary structure falls into our book of ordinances.
Oh, I think it's close enough for government work, because it does give a definition of a carport, which does not fall into any of the other things. And you're right, Mayor, I've got all the emails, the exchanges here that I've printed out, and I think a reasonable person can conclude that the carport falls outside of all that jurisdiction, other than it has to be within the setback ordinance. And it doesn't need a building permit?
No, that's not I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you, because, again, I looked at these, over the course of a couple of days, and I was traveling, as I explained. But I thought that Scott felt that it was an accessory structure and it would require a permit.
Well, here's, when I saw this.
Hang on,
Okay.
let me
Scott being the building inspector.
got it. So here's what his email is. Hi, Randy. I'm speaking only from the building code perspective. This is a carport. It is a structure. It is regulated by the building code, and a permit will be required. So let's say we have to have a permit then. But we don't know how much that permit is. That's the other thing that's we don't have. The floor is not required to be paved by the building code. To meet the definition of a carport, it must be open on at least 2 sides, which is not true, because that's different than what the ordinance says. The ordinance, I will read you the definition of a carport. The definition of a carport is it's one sentence. A carport is a shelter having 1 or more open sides. Okay, he says it's close enough for government work. And then so if there is a backside not visible, and if it has 4 sides, it would be regulated as a garage. And in either case, the structure and its attachment to the ground must be capable of withstanding 90-mile-an-hour winds, which makes sense, and the manufacturer may be able to assist with the requirements to comply.
Okay.
Well, when I didn't get any of the emails, and when I saw this on the agenda, I thought it was something from previous, and John probably knows, in years past with these people putting up these tents. And I've been bugged by one resident about, he looks out his kitchen window and patio door, and the neighbor behind him put one of these structures up, kind of like a carport, but it's just a covered tent. And we have quite a few people with these, and they're only supposed to be up temporarily, they're up permanently. So that's what I thought this was, and then we get into the carport issue, and then people are going to say, well, it's a carport, or,
Right.
And so then we look at setbacks, and it's just a glorified shed, for people to hide their crap in. And so that's what I thought this was, that we were going to start enforcing this.
Right.
So not opening up another can.
You bring up a very good point. So how, maybe we should then have a work group, because one of the other parts of the ordinance where it says on page 62, exterior storage, number F, it says here, and I'm going to read this to you guys. In all districts, in all districts, all personal property shall be stored within a building or fully screened so as not to be visible from adjoining properties and public streets, except for the following: laundry, drying, and recreational equipment, construction and landscaping materials and equipment currently within a period of 12 months being used on the premises, agricultural equipment and materials, if these are used or intended for use on the premises, firewood piles, off-street parking of licensed passenger automobiles and pickup trucks, boats, unoccupied trailers, recreational vehicles, and motor homes that are 36 feet or less in length are permissible if stored in the rear yard within all applicable setback requirements from any property line and display current licensing. And it goes on to a little bit more. So the bottom line of it is people can put, and then the rest of it talks about down by on the River District, where you all remember this, it's okay for the folks on the River District because it's kind of a interesting way of doing it. You guys have kind of a front yard, so it's okay to put stuff on that side of Lakeland Shores Road. So bottom line of it is, it's okay for people to put stuff in their backyard that's under 36 feet, and it does. In here, it doesn't say it has to be covered. And Tim, you're exactly right.
But all of the stuff, you used a different word, has to be in a building, but for the items that you listed.
Yeah.
So that is required to be in a building.
Mm-hmm.
So then if we look at the carport, that's a structure, so then that goes into the square footage of the lot and as an accessory building and the limitation.
No, that's not, the definition of an accessory building, I'll tell you what an accessory
Well,
building.
I know, but I'm just saying.
I'm gonna put it on the
what
record so everybody
building
knows.
inspector
Accessory building definition. And this one threw me for a loop because I think I'm fairly smart, but it's a tough one. An accessory building, a subordinate building or a portion of the main building which is located on the same lot as the main building and the purpose of which is clearly incidental to that of the principal building. Okay, very good. That's an accessory building. So whatever that means, I have no clue.
I mean, we can't have people just put 10 carports up in their yard.
Frankly, I'm not in favor of carport
We got people that
or
have
these temporary structures at
10
all.
tents in their yard that we can't get rid of.
I'm not in favor of one of them.
So then we need to have a definition of what is a tent and what's a carport.
Well, you either have a structure or you have a temporary structure. So I think our definition of structure is clear. We could maybe simplify it a little bit. And
Would you like to know what the definition of structure is?
No.
I have it here.
But I'd just like to finish my thought.
All right.
And temporary structures, as I understand it, Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, are not allowed.
It's my understanding if it's not addressed in the ordinance, they are not.
But I always, and John, maybe that's a legal question, but I always think it's better to state it clearly. I understand that legally maybe it's covered because it's not covered or addressed, but I'd prefer to expressly say that if that's the consensus of the council. So Randy raises a concern, and I think, one way or another, we should address that concern, whether it's directing Kim to do some additional work, or whether it's a work group or one of the other. But we can't direct Kim to do something without giving her some direction of what it is we'd like her to do. So, thoughts?
Well, I think we're all at a little loss here, mainly because most of us haven't had a chance to read the 190 pages of nor do I necessarily want to, and it's not like I don't take Randy's word for it, but I think the only thing that concerns me about this is I don't want to run up a lot of legal bills trying to figure it out.
I agree.
So I would hope that we could work together as a council to figure out, what's covered, what isn't, and I think, in all fairness, Randy, I think at least one other person has to, spend the time to look through.
I agree. That's why I was talking with Brian about a work group. Absolutely.
In order for us to be able to argue coherently about what's there, if there are any arguments.
So one observation I would make, Randy reached out to Mr. Magnuson, and he did provide a response. And what I gleaned from the response was that Stillwater had spent some time with this. So there's, in Stillwater, for instance, the code defines structure, anything that covers something else and that is constructed by man, and these sort of things need a special use permit. And since you are council, I won't read that for you.
Thank you.
But the idea is that clearly other communities have already gone down this road, and rather than reinvent the wheel, maybe we want to ask Kim to see if she could obtain copies of 2 other cities and what their policy is, provide those to the council, let them review that, and if need be, we could have anybody that's interested could participate in a workshop prior to our August meeting. to discuss it?
August or July?
We're shooting to cancel July based on it being
Oh.
the 4th of July.
Or move it to the following week?
Well, the first idea was to cancel it.
Oh, all right. Didn't hear that.
The second idea could be to move it to a different week. But as of right now, of course, it's early. We don't appear to have anything coming up in July.
Mayor and council members, what I would suggest is if I'm going to do some research on some other cities, I did reach out to the Stillwater zoning administrator yesterday at the meeting, and I can get a copy of their ordinance, bring back a couple of examples, and at that point, when you have the right information in front of you, determine if you would like to revise an ordinance.
Okay.
Select a work group to work on the revisions, or maybe just decide at that time, because you would have the language in front of you, and decide kind of which way you'd like to go.
And I'd like you to also work and take a look at Lakeland, because that's right next door.
And I guess anytime we're talking about that kind of an issue, you know, not presume that we're going one way or the other way. So if you were in favor of something, you would go more towards this type of language. If you were opposed to it, you'd go more time. Because I think for this particular issue, I think it's one way or the other. I don't really think there's any medium ground, is there?
It all, if you were to look at what the ordinances are right now, it's very clear, according to what both Magnuson said and what our building inspector said, is that it would be okay to put up a carport.
I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay, that's
That's
fine.
not how I read those emails.
Very
but,
good. So you got them and I got them, absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, can you share the emails with us?
absolutely. They should come through Kim, and I
Yeah.
believe you were copied on them.
Okay, maybe I can-
At least I tried to loop you in.
I did get a couple of them.
Yeah, so Kim could distribute the emails.
Okay.
And I don't know, maybe a little bit of consolidating, because there was, some people jumped in on one, some people jumped in on the other, so. But I think there's just a handful of,
I guess I would rather see a discussion before we contact the attorney and waste time and resources on that.
I won't, Mayor and council members, I wouldn't contact an attorney. I would
Yeah.
get
Oh, I know, but I mean-
ordinances, and the other thing, this type of ordinance, again, after you have all the information in front of you, and you decide you may want to revise something, make something clear, change it to make it less restrictive, this type of ordinance would require a public hearing. So you can take a look at the sample ordinances at your next regular meeting and decide what you'd like to do with that.
okay?
Mayor, if I could, Tim, this is the email from Magnuson. Randy, there is no clear definition of structure in the city code. Without that in the code, city council would need to make a determination or an interpretation as to whether that structure falls within the meaning of an accessory structure. This is important. He, Magnuson, would not spend the money on that thing before it's clear with the city. So Dave has already given an idea about that, and so I agree with what you folks are saying. There's no sense of going back after Magnuson, because he's already got his information here, and I'll show this to you, that you can show forward to the rest of the council. So yeah, I don't think we need, at this point in time, any further involvement with Magnuson until we get further down the road, if there's some other issues in the semantics of what we have to look at. Because there's other, because in the ordinance, there's also a definition of appurtenance, which is really screwy, and then here's a definition of a structure. So it's all in here, we just need to figure out what is what. It's going to
Kim,
be complicated.
what if instead of amending the ordinance, we did a text amendment to the definitions?
It's my understanding that even if you do a text amendment, if you change definitions, if that has to do with land use, what is allowed on people's land, a public hearing is required.
Okay. Okay. So you'll take a look at Stillwater's and you'll take a look at Lakeland's.
Are you in any hurry?
Huh?
Are you in any hurry?
Well, it's in my garage now. That's fine.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, I'm sorry, so you directed the clerk to do which ones?
You'd asked for Lakeland.
Yep.
She'd already requested Stillwaters.
Oh, that's reasonable. Is there any, because they have, and I'm just throwing this out, I don't want to put a lot of extra burden and onerous on you, but is there any reason to maybe do Lake St. Croix Beach, because they got a lot of boats down there and buildings? I don't know, I'm just throwing that out.
I'll leave that up to the council.
Does any, I can't answer that, but does anybody know of any carports in Lakeland Shores at this time?
I know of some temporary garages. I haven't personally seen a carport.
There are 2 of them within 700 feet of my house.
But not tents?
Not tents, nope.
Well, one was built and is attached to the principal structure, I believe.
Not the 2 I'm thinking of.
So,
Okay, I think we have enough direction on that, and we'll, based on, you're going to send that information when you receive the 2 of them. We won't have any additional discussion until either we have a workshop or an agenda item.
Okay.
I think it's probably a better workshop item. Does that make sense? So if we decide we're not going to meet in July, we would have a workshop in August. Does that make sense? Okay. So that concludes accessory item F. Item 6. Council and staff reports. Road commissioner report. John?
Other than what I've already indicated to the council concerning what Mr. Perotti has indicated to me, there really isn't anything going on as far as I can figure out. 4th Street still has numerous small softball-sized holes in it, and which is a concern, I'm sure, for those people that travel on a regular basis, but it's apparently not bad enough to do anything about at this time. The only thing I would ask, if anybody's listening to this, is that this is the time where growth takes place, and that means buckthorn and other invasive species seem to be creeping out into the road, and all I ask is the constituents of Lakeland Shores be vigilant and cut it back so that it doesn't impact traffic movement. And I will be monitoring it as the season goes on.
Great, thanks. Tom, treasurer's report?
Okay, take a look at Randy's favorite report, the financial snapshot on Schedule A. I just noted 2 significant expenses. The $2,302 to Washington County is for our 2017 assessment services. For reference purposes, we paid $2,280 in 2016 and $2,250 in 2015. Our budget was $2,650, but we've already incurred $2,623 in counting this because there's some extra expenses for like the levy certification report, and I think there's one other small bill that gets included in there.
So, Tom, we get more than one of those bills a year? Is that what you're saying?
No, there's only one big one,
Okay.
and this is the big one.
All
But
right.
there's a couple other smaller bills that get in that category.
So the
Part of the
total
budget.
fee that we pay the county for assessment services this year was,
Just for the assessment portion was $2,302.
okay,
Yep. And I included a copy of their invoice, which is the last page of the packet, F3, so you can see how much they charge for like vacant land, for residential, which is most of it, and then commercial. So they have a different rate that they apply. You can see how many parcels there are in each of those different classifications.
so, Tom, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you again. I I'm having some challenges, frankly, at a personal level with the assessor's office, and it's been painful. But in my research, one of the things that I found was the area that they're going to focus on for Lakeland Shores for 2018 review. And I'll pass that around to everybody, but it's a pretty sizable portion of our community. Is it fair to say then that our costs will increase next year?
No. No,
So
it doesn't matter how many individual properties they look at. If there's still 96 residential less than 500,000, we'll get 1361 per parcel.
Okay.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mayor and council members, I will note that the other smaller fees have to do with sending the property tax notices out, as well if there's any appeals. You'll get charged for that.
You get charged for the appeal?
If it goes to the county, yeah.
Okay, the appellant doesn't pay for that, huh? Okay, interesting.
Our fees for those have been like very minor.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really minor.
$50.
Well, I'll be in
Yeah.
front of the county board on the 13th, so I guess we'll get a bill.
Okay.
I'll pay it, you give it to me.
Let's go to Schedule C.
Crazy.
And let's talk about the application or an expected application for or work being done on 125 Lakeland Shores Road. We have incurred $760 of expenses. I have not seen an application or a fee or an escrow for that, so I don't know what the status of that is. I just
There will be an application.
want to make sure somebody's on top of it.
Yep, there will be an application, and that will be a cost that's recovered.
Okay, very good. On 195 Lakeland Shores Road, the Tom Brockman application, they had a $1,000 escrow. We've currently spent $1,073.25, so we're a little bit over. I don't know the status of the application. Are going to be more expenses? Is the project done?
We approved that in February, so I don't anticipate any additional costs for the
Should
city.
I send him a final bill then?
Yes.
If there's no more expenses, you know, when I say final on a bill, then we really shouldn't charge anything more. So I need to make sure that it
Kim's wanting
is
to come in.
final.
I will just ask, that was a variance?
Yes.
Okay, and in Lakeland Shores, do you have the person that was granted the variance record that at the county, or does the city?
I don't know specific to Lakeland Shores, but I know Lakeland that those were not recorded against the property, do you mean?
They should be recorded at the county, and that's a $42 charge.
Yeah, for whatever reason, that hasn't been done historically, to my knowledge.
Well, it might be a good time to start.
Yeah.
Or you may want to have the policy that the actual resident gets that recorded. It is to their benefit to have that recorded, and they incur those costs. Or you have the city do it, and it comes out of the escrow.
I would think if that's going to be our policy, I think we should do it so that it actually happens.
Because I think if they're building a house or going through construction, that's one of the things they'll probably.
I think in the past, the city attorney has filed that, what did you call it? The variance with the county, and then charges the city, which then gets charged to the applicant. But, you know, it's going to be more than $40 if you have their city attorney do it.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a consensus here that we're willing to do that at the city level.
Yeah.
Would the building inspector do that?
No.
Okay.
No, they don't do that.
No.
So my only
Okay,
my only question is, you know, he's gotten the variance, you know, the application fees, et cetera, have been paid, but I assume that Mr. Perotti will still be involved in things dealing with this, you know, building project. Once they start, they're just dismantling the present structure. But
My understanding is the only thing that our engineer would be on site for would be any like erosion control, but that in all likelihood could be the WMO, that could be Mike Eisensee. I don't know that we can assume that John will be back on site unless there's a specific item. It'll be the inspector that's primarily on site.
I guess my question, Tom, is whether or not we need to put final on the bill.
I felt that same thing.
I don't think we need to.
If you could just say outstanding balance,
Okay.
in the event we do incur some
Yeah.
unexpected
Yeah.
cost.
I could just say this is a progress, yeah, I could say, rather than use the final.
Current balance?
I know applicants like to see something that says final ultimately.
Yeah.
You know, this house is
You can get burned on
It's
that
just
if it's
starting, so
not
we
really
can't-
final.
So let's call it current balance for now.
Okay, yeah.
Do we
Does that
wanna,
make sense?
Yeah.
so if the clerk records it, do we have to have a fee for her in that, or is that included in,
I think we can probably absorb that.
okay?
Yeah, we typically have not charged for staff time, in assuming that even though she's an independent contractor, she's
Correct.
considered staff.
Mayor and council members, staff time I would not charge for, but the fee, the $42
Yeah.
actually goes to the county.
Yeah.
So I would take that out of an escrow, that fee.
Yeah, well, we'll
Right.
wait, that'll be part of the final,
Yeah.
once we get that.
Or the current, whichever.
Yes.
Unless you just want to wait and not send them a bill for the 7325 at this time,
I'd like her to record it, include the 42, send the bill for the current balance.
okay, so I'll wait until I get,
Oh, I wouldn't wait,
oh,
yeah.
add the 42
Just
right
add
away.
42?
Okay,
Okay.
So Kim's got to go to the county to do this? No?
If it's gonna
Why
be,
do you have to do that?
well, if it's gonna be recorded against the deed, the county recorder is the one that,
No, I understand that, but like, wouldn't the applicant, or don't we ever?
if we
have
want to guarantee that it's done, the thought is that we would do
Oh,
it.
I see what you're saying. So we don't, if we put it on them, they may not do it.
Half are gonna do it, half
I
won't.
see. Okay, got it.
Okay, anything else, Tom?
yes. Next month, I will have a preliminary budget. So the budget, the certification of the preliminary budget and levy is due September 30th, so we typically would approve that at our September meeting. So if we start next meeting, we will have July, August. Usually we have it done the month before, unless but we would have 3 opportunities to take a look at it. And
Are
so-
you, Tom, if the council decides not to meet in July, are you okay if we do it, if we have August and September?
Yes, yeah. What I could do is still send out a preliminary in July,
Okay,
so that you have that time to review. I like to send it out after we get 6 months of actuals and we get our first half property taxes and things like that. So
Sure.
it makes it easy, because then I start estimating the full year expenses.
okay,
So I could still send it out in July.
that'd be great.
If Kim and I talked briefly about expenses, and I was wondering whether I should set her up on the city credit card. You know, Sandy and I had a credit card on the city's account. I have a $2,000 limit, Sandy had $1,000. So I was wondering if we should add Kim.
So I'm gonna put Kim on the spot again, even though I asked her offline. This has been working for Kim. She, initially had agreed to help us because she didn't want to see a grown man cry. But
Do we
it's-
have any grown men here?
Yeah. But it's working for her, and it's been working for me, so I've been very, very impressed and happy with her services, so if you're still willing to continue on, and if the council's comfortable with the arrangement, then I would say yes, we should get her a credit card, but
We can wait till next month to, I don't think you have a lot of
you just want to have a
expenses
July
planned.
meeting, I'm telling you, we're not going to be here in July.
Oh, wait, we're not gonna have a meeting next month.
So you can't quit till August.
I was just gonna say that, we can't.
But
And if you want me to do the work,
yeah,
I think we ought to
boy,
go ahead
there's a lot of
with credit
painting in the
card.
corners going on here.
Go ahead with the credit card, Tom.
okay. I think it needs a motion. I need authorization by
Oh,
council.
we got it.
Kim has
Mayor,
it
council
on.
members, Sandy left me in really good shape with supplies. I can't imagine needing anything for quite some time.
Oh.
If you would like to wait. I ran out of paper in the printer, but,
You had more.
I can,
yeah,
At the county, can you
I
use the
can-
credit card to pay for that fee at the county, or do they charge you a percent, a couple bucks to do it?
they'll bill the city.
Oh, they will, okay. That's good then.
yeah,
Let's just go ahead
yeah,
and get it. I
yeah,
mean, there's,
they'll
it
bill
doesn't
the
cost
city for
anything,
that.
so.
Okay.
Where's the credit card that Sandy had?
We cut it up.
Oh, got it.
She actually asked me to cut it up while she was present.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yep.
You need a motion, you said, Tom?
He'd like a motion.
I would like a motion.
I'll make a motion that we authorize the city clerk to have a city,
That we get the clerk credit card with a credit limit not to exceed 1,000.
yes, that's my motion.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
Exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by the sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
I think,
Be sure to spend it all in one place.
I'm missing a building permit fee. And so I think I mentioned that in my email when I sent out the report. Has anybody seen or have a check or anything? It's for the Tom Brockman building permit. I have not seen a check for that. So.
Minspec was covering during our gap.
Okay.
So it may have gone straight to Minspec
Okay, I will contact them.
because they issued the permit.
And let them know, because we're paying them their fee for it.
Yes.
But we haven't received the money yet.
And they also issued a roofing permit fee during that same week.
I think I got that one,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you have an address on the roof?
Yeah, I got the roofing fee from TRS Builders, but I did not get the other one.
Okay. Yeah, I'd follow up with them.
Yep, okay, just wanted to make sure somebody didn't have it in their briefcase or something, because I know things were, and that's all I have.
Thanks, Tom. Kim?
Mayor and council members, I only have one thing. I'm going under the assumption that you may not have a July council meeting. I did reach out to the legal staff at the League of Minnesota Cities, and they provided me with information regarding approval of a bill list without having a meeting per se. There's certain types of claims that the council approval is not required before payment is made. Judgments, your rent, other fixed charges that are determined by a contract. I think it's kind of my understanding that most of your bills, I did look through the bill list, are really based on a contract. So I think that the city would be fine for the league to authorize Tom to go ahead and send out those bills if there is not a July meeting.
So just as a cautionary measure, Tom, before you pay those, would you mind just sending a summary of those to Kim to distribute to the council? And if any council members have questions, they can approach you directly?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and good, you and I have to both sign them anyway.
Right.
After, but we can distribute them first.
Yeah. So if anybody has a question, they would just
Yeah.
contact you directly. Okay. Thanks for looking into that, Kim. Is that all? Kim?
Oh, that's all I have, I'm sorry.
Okay, great. We'll move on to...
Mayor, I have one, just on an aside, so we're going to stay with Kim for a while. Just out of curiosity, what is it, June 22nd? Is that what's on the League of Minnesota Cities? Or did that get changed for the posting for the clerk?
I just talked to her about that, yes, and the idea was that she's going to pull it. She'll pull the ad,
Oh, okay.
if that makes sense.
So we're going to kind of hire her then?
Well, she's on a contract basis, so we'll just
Contract.
continue on with the
Got
contract
it,
basis.
okay, that's fine. Just was wondering. Very good.
Yeah, if we're all comfortable with that. Yep. We did receive a handful of applications.
Okay. Will those people then be notified thanks but no thanks?
Yes,
Got it.
and we'll keep them on file.
Keep them on file.
Yep. Okay, we'll move on to council reports. Would you like to start, Randy?
Well, believe it or not, folks, I have nothing tonight. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Believe it or not.
Right.
Well, wait a minute, maybe there's some.
John?
My only question has more to do with procedure. On the complaint that came in last month, and a letter has gone out to the homeowner, do they have a certain number of days to either rectify the situation, or if they are in violation of something, which I'm not sure they are or aren't, but if they are, or I assume the letter wouldn't have gone out if we didn't feel that they were in violation of some part of our ordinance?
So I'll touch on it briefly,
Okay.
just as a refresher, but that was a unique complaint because that gentleman reached out to each of us individually. So he basically had the entire council potentially running around addressing his issue. Once I saw a pattern that he had reached out to more than one of us, I made the assumption that he had reached out to all of us. But it's a great example of anytime we're contacted with a complaint, direct them to Kim to fill out the form, and then Kim takes it. So frankly, that's what I believe happened, and she just handles it. We're not even involved in it. So I believe your assumption's accurate that she found there was an issue and that she sent the letter. Is that accurate, Kim?
Yes.
Without knowing without saying the person, what was the complaint? Maybe I forgot. I
It
don't know
was,
if
it was vehicles.
Vehicles.
Oh,
One was damaged and one was untagged.
You responded and copied me in. That's how I knew he had reached out to more than just me.
oh, now it rings a bell. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. Now
And
it rings
in
a
the
bell.
letter that I sent out, I did give him a reasonable amount of time to remove the vehicles.
When does that time period end? Or have the vehicles been removed?
I would have to look up the letter, I don't know offhand.
Do we know if the vehicles have been removed?
I went by earlier this week and the one had not been moved.
Okay.
I did not see the other one.
The one in the driveway or the one out back?
The one in the driveway was still there.
So does that mean that you gotta go out and look at it?
Mayor and council members, I would certainly do that after the time limit is
After the
up,
time
but I don't
limit,
know
okay.
when that time is. I don't recall.
That's fine.
So then, just proceeding along with that
I live a
thought,
block away, I'll ride my bike, but, okay.
Kim, proceeding along that line of thought, let's assume that there isn't compliance. Is that then what's the procedure? Do you send a second letter, or does it come to the council for some direction or decision, or?
I think we can tow it. I think according to you.
Well, in this particular case, but let's just say a complaint in general. What's the procedure?
Because then it would shoot.
Quite honestly, it would depend on what type of complaint it is. There wouldn't be a second letter sent if there was non-compliance, if it were a health, safety, welfare issue.
Okay.
On perhaps a junk car or something like that, a second letter would be sent. If the situation wasn't rectified, I would definitely talk to MinSpec. In other communities, the building inspector can go red tag. But you are correct, in this situation, it's very clear in your ordinance that it can be towed. And at the property owner's cost, if they don't pay for that, it goes on their property taxes.
So from a comfort level personally, I think before we took an invasive action, I would feel more comfortable if the council made that decision or provided that direction, then everybody's aware of what's being done and it's clear that you know, the direction's been given and the authority is there. Does that seem reasonable?
Oh, I think that nothing to rectify the situation would be done by me or the city without coming to the council.
Okay.
And my only other thing, has anybody actually talked to this individual? I mean, I realize you sent out the letter, and I don't expect you to go up to his front door and knock. But has anybody from the council, you know, gone and talked to him?
Hopefully not. I understand what you're saying. There's value in just a conversation, but I'm trying to remove us from the complaint process. But I understand your point of face-to-face contact is valuable as well.
I did that years ago, John, and it was good until I had that one incident, and that's when I agree with Brian on certain situations. It's just not worth it.
Let's see what happens, I guess.
Brian, if I could.
But to John's point, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, a letter is a letter. So maybe just some coordination of effort there, because I'm not opposed to doing that or doing that with you or something. Okay.
Brian, if I might just give Kim a little bit of a heads up, go to the ordinance book, go to Title 9, which is Chapter 9, and then go to Section 94, Health and Safety Nuisances. Chapter 94 has pretty much everything in here about cars. And it spells out 30 days. I haven't, obviously, I just looked through it real quick. I didn't read this part, I read the other 198 pages, but it just popped in my mind because I was going through here. So here's your Bible right here.
I don't think she does anything without checking our ordinance book, because every city's...
Oh, it's in here.
Every city's different.
Yeah, no.
Did you review that?
Yes, I
I'm
did.
sure
Okay.
she did, yeah.
The only thing she can't remember is the date that
Oh, that's
passed
fine.
in order to complete
Yeah.
it.
fine.
Yep.
But, you know, Randy, from now on, if you're going to bring that
Was
book,
it David ended
I'm
in
thinking of designing.
I'll get you a copy too. We'll put it up as an overhead.
Nothing else, John?
I got nothing else to do.
All right, I'll do mine quick. Back in, I believe it was March, I attended Lakeland's Board of Review. I asked John to join me. We just simply went and observed Lakeland's Board of Review. This is something that I had approached the previous council about. It's something that I'm passionate about. It's something that I would like to discuss in the future. I had mentioned that I'm personally going through a bit of a battle with the assessor's office, and it's just, you know, when it's not a local person to talk to, it's a challenge, is all I'll say. So I passed out this information in terms of how many of our citizens are going to be reviewed next year. That's potentially how many people may or may not have an issue. So I just bring that to your attention. The July meeting, tentatively, I would like to request that we cancel that, not formally this evening. If you could leave that at my discretion, because if something comes in that we need to address, we'll meet. But if it remains an agenda-free item, I'd like to cancel July, if you're comfortable with that. Yeah. And then the last item I have for you, and this is actually a pretty significant item that we need to focus on. Our comp plan is due for updating and for review. And from my past experience at Lakeland, you know, we can make this as complicated as we want to make this and costly, or we can make it as relatively simple as possible. So I'm not sure how Lakeland Shores did it the last time. I think in Lakeland we spent maybe $5,000 or $10,000, Tom? Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Other communities spent $35,000. It's really all over the map. At the watershed level, we've tried to provide an awful lot of the data that seem to lead to those costs just getting excessive. Mark Nagel, who is a consultant and a professor, I've worked with at Lakeland. I brought him on as a consultant. He thought we might be eligible for some grant money, so he did check, and the reality is we're too small to receive grant money. So he had indicated that he thought he could do it, he could handle the entire comp plan review at a fee of $35 an hour, and he thought it would take about 60 hours to do it. Not looking for a decision, but we do need to keep this on our radar screen. Kim, I don't know that I talked to you about this, but if you have any other ideas or recommendations of how we could get through that process as painless as possible, that I think we'd all appreciate that. But we probably have to start making some decisions on how we want to proceed with updating the comp plan.
Could you, for those of us that are not that familiar, I mean, I'm familiar with the comp plan, but when you redo it, I don't know, is it being redone, or is it something that is just, you go over it looking for things that you might want to change, or things that are required to be changed?
I think the simple answer is that for larger cities, it's a pretty significant undertaking because so much changes. You know, they have growth, they have expansion, their boundaries may change. It deals with everything from zoning to types of uses to population to your stormwater controls, those things. What I have found in the past is that the smaller your city, the less things change, especially if you're built out.
Yeah.
So updating it is just making sure you take a fresh look at things. Of course, there are some unfunded mandates that you have to include in your update. But for the most part, for Lakeland Shores, it ought to be very straightforward and very simple.
And you're suggesting that this individual that you've had used before is somebody that would know what those unfunded mandates might be?
Absolutely. In fact, I believe he's facilitating the update of Lakeland's. But yeah, he's a city administrator. He does Elko New Market. As I'd indicated, he's a professor of, he teaches future administrators at Metropolitan State, I believe it is. I found him to be extremely knowledgeable. Lakeland uses him and gets a monthly report of what's happening at the Capitol and that type of information. But I'm not recommending at this point. I'm just saying that was an exchange I had. I'd be curious to see if Kim has other ideas. But one way or another, we've got to make a decision and start our work.
And when does that have to be completed?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I believe the work has to be completed, is it by year end? And then there's a process where the draft goes to the Met Council and it goes to your neighboring communities. They get to comment on it as well. And then the final approval is probably 18 months from now, or 2 years almost.
The updates have to be completed by the end of 2018. So you
Okay.
have a year and a half.
So we have time, which
And-
sounds like a lot of time.
And the Met Council should have sent out something that they were very specific about what you needed to update in your comprehensive plan. And it is just an update. It's not being rewritten.
So those are the unfunded mandates that I referred to. So they're clearly defined.
What is our, I thought I was going to be really smart here, but this is, I have an old one. This is May 1st of 2000. And that's obviously before I became mayor, okay? What do we, and so I was looking
Every
for-
10 years, you probably did one
Yeah.
in 2010.
We did.
We
In
had,
fact, here is our
council
local
did it.
surface water management plan that was adopted in 2009. So we probably did it then in 2010. Okay. And Mayor,
And that was a new item at the time, and
Yeah.
that's what got expensive
yeah,
fast.
exactly. And just for some historical data, and unfortunately he's probably not going to watch it, but back in 2009, 10, that period, Dave Jarvis spent an enormous amount of time putting together our comprehensive plan and did a really nice job on it and saved us a gob of money. Dave Jarvis, thank you, nice job. But so that's the one that we're working off of now. Let's call it 2010 for the sake of argument. So yeah, it's an enormous undertaking that he did, and it turned out great. So whatever we can do, I know we had talked about too, getting a consultant, another one from Lakeland. So I think, if depends upon how much the Met Council, how much they're going to drill down. And unfortunately, I don't have the most recent one, but how much they drill down and, put the, screws to us, if you will, that we have to do. But not a lot has changed in 10 years here, actually.
Yeah, just all the dates have to be updated.
Yeah, exactly, and people
It's a
and
lot
things
of
like-
that type of work.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, thank you.
So Kim, if you would give some thought to that, and you and I can talk, and then we'll look for some council direction in August. Okay, Tim, report?
I just have a couple things that I've noticed driving around, going back and forth. couple of properties, you know, they look like they're, I know one, and John probably knows, down at the end of Quinlan. They got all the vehicles and the lawn needs to be mowed. I don't know if I just file out a complaint myself and send it in?
Yes,
Is that what we do?
that would be the process, yep.
Okay, so that's, you'll probably be seeing a few from me, so. Otherwise, that's it.
Tom?
Okay, John, just to follow up on your noxious weed thing, just to expand that to tree branches and shrubs and other things too, just so that we do have an ordinance in place that tries to keep the roadway clear. I'm representing the fire department on that because we've had some multi-$1,000 incidents with overhanging branches and fire trucks. So,
They become a little bit more difficult, Tom, because I can only put the step ladder on the back of my pickup truck and you know, to reach them.
well, I'll get you a transom. I got one at home,
If you
know.
could provide the fire truck and I'll get the brush clippers, you know.
Yeah.
40 runs in the month of March for the fire department. As I was flipping through here quickly, there were 5 to I-94, none to our particular community, but I did what something triggered when I looked at it, and I went, oh yeah, it's boating season again, so we're probably going to have our share of dive team calls and boat calls for out on the river. The only other item I have, and I kind of alluded to it earlier in our last meeting, was the budget is now complete and approved. The overall increase for this year is 2.51%, which is down from the last 2 years. Our tax levy for next year will be, let me say it this way. The increase for our town will be $921 to the fire department for next year. That's it.
So that seems like a lot of money if it's only a 2-point increase, because our total expenditures to the fire department are about $35,000
Excuse me, I
annually.
read the wrong number. I'm sorry. I was looking at the, where was I? Where'd it go?
Ken, you should have received a copy of the approved budget. Okay, I don't, sometimes
Okay.
they get distributed.
You're
to
right.
council or something.
The overall increase is
Whatever.
2.51. Our actual increase, based on our tax capacity, is about 5. So it's a little more than, the overall fire department increase is 2.15, but as I look at this, no, that's
2.51.
2.51.
Is the overall.
Yeah, is the overall. Ours is actually, our percent of increase for the town is 3.9.
3.97
Yeah.
for 921.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's all based on the formula, the population, and the tax capacity.
Yep.
And there's been some dramatic changes in our town and Afton as far as tax capacity goes.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
I think that's everything. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.